Hey, good morning. I'm Patricia Murphy. It's Wednesday. This is Seattle Now. The 2026 FIFA Men's World Cup is coming to Seattle. The city now has less than a year before it welcomes hundreds of thousands of visitors. There's plenty of time for Seattle to meet some of its goals before the players score theirs. Will it be a win-win for the city? Seattle Now sports correspondent Vaughan Jones is here with a preview of what's to come. But first, let's get you caught up. Seattle Public Schools plans to eliminate the waitlist system next fall for the district's popular option schools. Option schools fall outside a student's neighborhood and offer specialized programs. KUOW has reported that the waitlist system has driven hundreds of families out of the district when they weren't able to attend the school of their choice. The district says it'll now move as many students as possible off the waitlists and into 10 of the district's most sought-after schools. The state of Washington will break a record this fiscal year in payouts for lawsuits. Legal actions over a wide range of misconduct have cost the state more than $500 million, according to the Washington State Standard. That's a seven-fold increase over what the state paid in 2018. That was the year a judge expanded the state's liability in some foster care cases, which has led to a spike in legal claims. In addition to the payouts, the state spent another $56 million in legal costs defending against the suits. And King County is getting ever closer to completing a massive trail project. This week, a new segment opened that connects the cities of Burien and SeaTac. The 7-mile stretch is the latest segment of the Lake to Sound Trail. When finally complete, it will span the south end of Lake Washington in Renton to the shoreline of Puget Sound in Des Moines. Check back for more headlines on tonight's episode of Seattle Now. Seattle is one of 16 cities in North America hosting matches for the 2026 FIFA Men's World Cup, and the first match is now less than a year away. June 15th, 2026, Seattle will be on the world stage. The city is estimating that 750,000 people will be here within the 3 weeks of the city's 6 matches. A lot of promises have been made at the city and state level. Seattle Now sports correspondent Vaughan Jones is here to talk about the progress we've made. Vaughan, really appreciate you checking in.
It's good to be here, Trish. It's always good to be here.
Vaughan, 750,000 is close to the entire population of Seattle. Are you telling me we're going to squeeze the equivalent of the entire city into the city?
No, I don't think that would be really, truly possible. It won't be exclusively in Seattle. Areas around Washington have these fan zones planned. Some people who are coming into Seattle will try to travel between LA and Seattle and Vancouver, so they won't spend all their time jam-packed in King County. I will say it will likely impact your life, though, trying to get around traffic and transit and ferries. Test your patience, getting into restaurants and bars and stores. Just expect more bodies in your area. And some people are hoping it's not just a Seattle thing. I spoke to some soccer fans last week, and one woman, DC Evans, is from Renton. She submitted a bid this week for some fan festivities as an event planner and is excited to welcome people to the Seattle area and not just Seattle.
Our city is ready for this, and there are so many different towns and areas that are ready to show what we can do. People coming from the north, coming to Bellingham, coming to Everett, and all over, and I'm just really excited to welcome them to here.
So, yes, it's not just going to be Seattle, but to think about the city for a second, not to scare you, but take a moment to think about what's been going on in the city this month. The weather is gorgeous. There's all these Pride events, Juneteenth events, Mariners games, concerts. The city really comes alive in the summer. So the level of activity during the World Cup combined with a Seattle summer level of excitement might get a little tough.
All right, well, this is an amateur hour, Vaughan. We've had big city events before. Seattle had a crazy month, July 2023, with the MLB All-Star Game one week, then the Taylor Swift and the Toronto Blue Jays in one weekend. What is the difference?
This is a really interesting question. The Downtown Seattle Association says 1.15 million people visited the area on July 22nd and 23rd, 2023. That's that Blue Jays Taylor Swift combo weekend. That's a lot of people, and that's even more than are projected to visit the Seattle area during this World Cup stretch. But there's still a belief that the World Cup will still be busier. People will be staying longer than just the weekend, trying to explore more of the city than just that kind of downtown pocket. King County Metro told King 5 this week that this will be, quote, a level 10 times higher than the MLB All-Star Game, and they're expecting more transit use than that Taylor Swift weekend. Obviously not a one-to-one comparison, but FIFA says Qatar had 1.4 million international visitors for the 2022 Men's World Cup. Because it's more spread out around the U.S., it won't be that big, but we'll also have much more U.S.-based traffic than Qatar did, obviously.
All right, so short story is we're going to have a lot of people here, Vaughan. Lumen Field only holds about 69,000 bodies, so what's the ticket situation going to look like? How are Seattleites going to be able to fit in here?
Cost was the first thing that came to mind for me. How much are these tickets going to be? This is a once-in-a-generation event. The last time that the World Cup was held in the U.S. was 1994. So cost came to mind first. FIFA told sports publication The Athletic recently, quote, estimated group game ticket prices would be about $305 per ticket. That is actually a lot lower than I anticipated it being, which is really interesting, but still pretty high. I learned this year at the Seattle Sports Commission Region Ready event, which was held in the spring, ticket sales are projected to start, quote, early Q4 is what they say. So October area, October, November, potentially. The 2022 Men's Cup had multiple rounds of ticket sales, so anticipate tickets being released in waves and getting multiple tries. We don't have all the details on how the sale will go, but in 2022, there's a random draw. You put your name in and you kind of get a random luck of the draw thing to be able to buy on the primary market. You may need the luck of the draw there because the resale market is going to be gross. There were also special exceptions made in 2022 so that actual residents of Qatar could get tickets easier than people coming in from outside. It's unclear if that's going to happen again, but there is precedent to make sure that people who actually live in that area would get to go. If you're wondering who's playing in Seattle, the answer is we do not know yet. December is when the group stage groups are drawn, so you will probably be buying tickets without knowing who is going to be playing in the match you buy the tickets for, except we do know that Team USA will be playing on Juneteenth, 2026, so a year from tomorrow.
Okay. All right. Either way, it sounds like you should start putting your money aside now if you're a family going to a game like this. A lot of city and state officials, Vaughan, made promises about improvements in our city ahead of the June 2026 games. Let's talk about what's been promised.
I have a couple of things here, a couple of different categories. One category is tangible changes that are happening right now. Governor Bob Ferguson promised, quote, full ferry service this summer and next summer, which is actually reportedly happening in July for the first time since 2019 as the ferry Wenatchee comes back into service after its electrification. Sound Transit has delayed but is working on the light rail connector between the east side and the downtown area. Early 2026, we know, is the date on that. King County Metro also says the south extension of the one line towards Federal Way will also be open in early 2026. So people who are staying south of the city will actually be able to get there easier. The other category is tangible things that are scheduled but have yet to be done. The kiosks that were passed through the Seattle City Council this month to be in the downtown area, the Seattle Center combining with PacSci, sort of removing those gates and updating the PacSci courtyard. Fan zone activations coming in throughout the state. Seattle Center is going to have one. And the state legislature passed House Bill 1515, also colloquially known as the sip and stroll law, to help out. So you're going to be walking and drinking through those fan zones. The big thing here is that this is about quote unquote legacy. There is an idea that the people in charge want to leave Seattle better than how they found it. So a lot of stuff.
All right. Well, soccer fans are already celebrating being 1 year out from the World Cup. You were hanging out with them over the weekend. What did you learn, Vaughan?
Yeah, that's great. I hung out at Pier 62 on Sunday. The local World Cup organizing group wanted to celebrate being a year out from the World Cup by breaking the Guinness Book of World Records record for most people taking a simultaneous soccer lesson. So the one thing I did learn is that the excitement is there. They broke the record. I watched over 1,000 people practice soccer for 30 minutes. It was kind of a
How many
surreal
goalies?
sight. No goalies. But while I was there, I wanted to ask our city's soccer fans how they were feeling about the World Cup coming. So I talked to a lot of people in Sounders uniforms. Unsurprisingly, there is a general feeling that this is a big deal. It's an honor to bring the world to Seattle. But there is that worry about how crowded it's going to be, how crazy traffic and transit is going to be. I also heard some concerns about sustainability and climate impact in the city and people generating more waste if there's going to be more people in the area. There is a general thought of we're getting there, but we're not ready yet. And there needs to be some more thought put into this, just from the average person on the street, unless you ask Brad Evans, a former Seattle Sounder. He thinks Seattle is super ready, and he actually has some experience with the U.S. men's national team back in 2014 to prove it.
One of my World Cup qualifiers was with Panama here, and it was an unbelievable crowd. We won 2-0. And to see this team come back now for a World Cup game, I'm more than thrilled. We're ready. The fans are ready, and it's about time, I think.
So there's the Club World Cup that's being played right now here in Seattle and around the U.S. That's different from the 2026 World Cup, but it's put on by the same people, FIFA. What are we learning from that?
Yeah, this kicked off this past weekend, and these matches are actually going to be stretching into the next couple weeks. Depending on who you ask, the city and the surrounding area are trying to learn. The difference between the Club World Cup and the World Cup is in the name. It's an international competition of clubs. For example, the Sounders are in it, and that's why there are matches being played up here in Seattle. Just like next year, 6 matches are being played in Seattle at Lumen Field, and this is happening right now. The LA Times says FIFA is viewing this as a, quote, trial run for some of its World Cup infrastructure. King County Metro told King 5 that they view this Club World Cup as a stress test for their public transit. Washington State Ferries told me the same thing, that they're paying attention to how these matches go. So the powers that be want this to be a test, but, big but here, Trish, the sales and attendance for these matches has not been great so far. I went to the Sounders versus Botafogo match on Sunday, and even though it was Father's Day, there was a Mariners game that day, you'd still expect something like this to be pretty full, and it just kind of wasn't. And it was a really good, exciting match. It was a local team, and the Sounders are playing against some of the best clubs in the world, and they had to move people in the upper bowl so it looked fuller on camera. It was really strange to look at, and then after the game, I looked it up, and the Lumen Field was at about 44% of capacity. So I don't know how many lessons are being learned here.
All right, Vaughan, well, I've read that ticket sales could be impacted by the Trump administration's promise that ICE will be providing security at games and that ticket holders should bring proof of citizenship. Do you think that could be impacting the game you already saw? Yeah,
I do think with the Club World Cup, obviously, it's not as huge of a draw as the World Cup in general, and I do think that could be making an impact here. Obviously, when the Club World Cup was announced and when the World Cup was announced for North America, there wasn't any idea that Donald Trump would be entering the office of the president again and impacting immigration as heavily as he has. So I think it's really interesting to see how the politics of the United States and the politics of North America may impact people, as we talked about with people from Canada not coming to Toronto Blue Jays games here in Seattle. Politics in America may keep people away from these matches and may keep people away from traveling to the U.S. during the World Cup next year.
Yeah, especially during an international event like the World Cup. Do you get a sense that Seattle will be different coming out of this event, out of this World Cup? Will we be better for having hosted it?
I think yes. I think it's been really interesting to see some of this stuff play out. This June 2026 date sort of lighting a fire under some of these projects and moving things along. The World Cup here in Seattle has gotten a lot of comparison to the 1962 World's Fair. It's this big event where Seattle welcomes the world, and to look more impressive, they build the Space Needle and the Seattle Center, all this stuff. Now we're taking the opportunity this year to polish things up. SeaTac has needed these improvements. We've been waiting for the 1 and 2 line to connect. We actually had a delay on that. It was supposed to happen this year, and now it's early next year. We've wanted these things, and the World Cup has sort of lit a fire underneath some of this change. I think it's also okay to be a little upset about that it takes soccer to make change. The local organizing committee talks a lot about legacy. I talked to Beth Knox of the Seattle Sports Commission, and they are all about leaving it better than they found it.
The short answer is it cannot be a one-off event. It can't be it happened and now it's done and there's nothing left behind. We believe in that legacy for every single event we host. What is left here in the community that is meaningful, that creates an impact?
The Sports Commission says that if we nail this, if Seattle looks great on TV, everyone enjoys their visit, it opens up the door for other events. Whether or not that's a good thing, that depends on who you ask. Some people like their quiet. But the host nation of the 2031 Women's World Cup is up in the air. The Sports Commission has been trying to make a bid to host an NFL draft at some point. If Seattle can prove it's ready to make the World Cup happen and happen seamlessly, other things can happen as a result. So we may be in these chairs a few more times talking about cool sports stuff in the future.
All right. Vaughan Jones, Seattle Now sports correspondent. Really appreciate you taking the time.
I really appreciate it. Thank you, Trish.
Yeah. Thanks for listening to Seattle Now. Today's episode was produced by Vaughan Jones with an assist from Andy Hurst. It was edited by Caroline Chamberlain Gomez. Our production team also includes Brooklyn Jamerson Flowers and Paige Browning. Greg Kramer does our theme music. Seattle Now and KUOW Public Radio are members of the NPR network. I'm Patricia Murphy. See you soon.